right, ready to dive in. Today, we're tackling something that might sound a little intimidating, but trust me, it's a world worth exploring. Poetry slams.
Yeah, poetry slams.
Now, you might be thinking, poetry slams. I'm no poet. And that's totally cool.
Yeah.
Whether you're a seasoned performer or just curious about this whole slam poetry thing, this deep dive is for you.
For everyone.
We're going to uncover some seriously cool insights from a guide called Bahn-Slam, specifically their first podcast episode titled 3 Secrets of Successful Poetry Slammers. It's like a backstage pass to the world of slam poetry.
Actionable stuff, real tips and techniques from people who, actually rock the mic.
Exactly. So close your eyes for a sec. Picture this. You're under the spotlight, microphone in hand, heart pounding, about to share your poetry with the world. But instead of that wave of stage fright, you feel ready.
Confident.
Connected to the audience. And that's the feeling Bahn-Slam helps us unlock.
Yeah, it's a great guide, a really practical approach.
All right, let's jump right in. Secret number 1, and this one's a bit of a game changer. The audience wants to feel, not be amazed. It's easy to get caught up in trying to impress with fancy rhymes or metaphors, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
But Bahn-Slam throws a curveball.
They say forget all that.
Basically, yeah. They argue that genuine emotion, that raw honesty, will always, always trump technical showmanship.
It's about connecting, not just showing off.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Haven't you ever been more moved by a simple story told from the heart than some super complex but emotionally empty performance?
All the time. It's the heart that matters.
And Bahn-Slam highlights this beautifully with a story about a slam poet who shared their experience of heartbreak. No fancy wordplay, just raw emotion.
And the audience was captivated.
Moved to tears, the guide even says.
Powerful stuff.
It's about tapping into those universal human emotions, the things we all connect with on a deep level.
The goosebumps test.
Yeah, exactly. Bahn-Slam calls it the goosebumps test. If your writing gives you goosebumps, chances are it'll resonate with others too. It's about finding that emotional truth. Have you ever had that feeling while writing where you just know you've struck a chord?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, get ready for secret number 2 because this one might seem counterintuitive. Silence is louder than any word. Now, my first thought was, wait, silence in a performance? Isn't that kind of, awkward?
Yeah, I get that.
But Bahn-Slam makes a really compelling case for the strategic use of pauses.
Silence gives your words space to breathe.
It's like a well-placed pause after a powerful line lets the audience really absorb what they've just heard, creates anticipation, draws them in.
Makes them lean forward, like what's next.
Bahn-Slam paints this vivid picture of a captivated audience holding their breath during a performance filled with well-timed pauses. It's like the silence itself becomes part of the story.
Adds another layer of meaning.
We naturally use pauses in conversation, right?
Right.
To emphasize a point or let an idea sink in. So Bahn-Slam is basically saying, apply that same principle to slam poetry.
1-second pauses. That's the trick.
They suggest practicing 1-second pauses after impactful lines. I know it might feel weird at first just standing there in silence, but they swear it's worth it. I challenge you, dear listener, give it a try. You might be surprised at the difference it makes.
Really makes a difference.
All right. On to secret number 3, and this one's all about delivery. Your voice is your instrument.
Love that.
Remember, we're not just reading words off a page here. We are performing.
We're bringing the words to life.
And Bahn-Slam reminds us that our voice is the key to captivating the audience. They stress the importance of vocal modulation.
It's about using your voice like an instrument. Volume, tempo, emphasis, all those variations.
They even have this incredible example of a slam poet who starts their performance almost in a monotone, like they're lulling the audience into a trance.
Yeah, and then bam.
Gradually, they build up intensity, their voice getting louder, faster.
Yeah.
And it culminates in this powerful shout that electrifies the entire room.
It's so cool.
It's about creating that dynamic experience that keeps the audience on the edge of their seats. Bahn-Slam suggests recording ourselves, reading our work aloud, and experimenting with different vocal variations. I know, listening to your own voice can be cringeworthy.
Oh, well, tell me about it.
But it's a valuable exercise. Even subtle shifts in tone or pace can have a huge impact.
It makes you really aware of the power of your voice.
So we've got honesty, connection, and mastery of delivery. It seems like Bahn-Slam is saying it's not about being a technically perfect poet, but about moving the audience, making them feel something. What are your thoughts?
They're spot on. Slam poetry is about connecting with your own emotions, with the audience, and using your voice to bridge that gap.
And remember, this is just a taste of what Bahn-Slam has to offer. We've only scratched the surface of their first podcast episode, 3 Secrets of Successful Poetry Slammers. There's so much more to discover.
Stay tuned for the next part of our deep dive,
Where we'll be exploring each of these secrets in more detail, sharing more examples from Bahn-Slam, and giving you practical tips to implement in your own writing and performance.
Can't wait.
And don't forget, we've got a special promotion going on right now, just in time for the holidays. The Poetry Master Guide, mentioned in Bahn-Slam, is available at a reduced price for a limited time. Perfect gift idea.
Head over to their website to check it out.
Before we wrap up this first part, let me ask you this. What story, what emotion are you burning to share with the world? Because Bahn-Slam makes one thing crystal clear. You don't have to be a seasoned pro to make an impact on stage. You just need the courage to be authentic, to connect, and to let your voice be heard.
Let your voice be heard. I love that. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the world of poetry slams. We're still unpacking Bahn-Slam's 3 secrets to success. And last time we left off talking about using your voice as an instrument.
Right. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Bahn-Slam really drives home the importance of vocal modulation.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think this is where a lot of people get stuck. You know, it's one thing to say vary your voice, but what does that actually look like when you're up on stage?
Well, think of it this way. You have all these different dials you can adjust with your voice. You can play with volume, speed, the emphasis you place on certain words.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, and each choice creates a different effect, a different feeling for the listener.
So instead of just reading the words, we're really thinking about how those words will sound, how they'll make the audience feel.
Exactly. Bahn-Slam encourages us to think about the emotional landscape of the poem.
Okay.
And then use our voice to kind of mirror that landscape, to bring the audience into that world, to make them feel it too.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm reading a line about heartbreak, I might speak soft, slowly, with a lower pitch, to convey that sadness.
Exactly. And then let's say the next line is about anger or defiance. You might increase your volume, speed up the tempo, and emphasize certain words to create that shift in energy.
It's like using your voice to paint a picture, almost.
It is. It's like creating a movie in the audience's mind.
I love that. Now, I'm curious about the practical side of things. Bahn-Slam mentions the recording ourselves, which, yeah, can be a little awkward.
A little bit, yeah.
But do they have any other tips for actually practicing vocal modulation?
Well, one technique they suggest is marking up your poem like a musical score.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you literally write in cues like faster, louder, whisper. You can even draw little arrows to indicate where you want to change your pitch.
That's brilliant.
It's like creating a roadmap for your voice to follow.
Love that. It takes the pressure off.
Yeah, totally.
You've already made those decisions, so when you're performing, you can just focus on delivering the words.
And speaking of being present, we can't forget about the power of those pauses, which we talked about earlier.
Right, the silence.
Bahn-Slam emphasizes that silence is just as crucial as sound.
Yeah, a well-timed pause can be so powerful. It's like the silence itself is speaking.
Bahn-Slam actually suggests experimenting with different types of pauses,
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a short, sharp pause can create a sense of urgency,
Huh?
while a longer, more drawn-out pause might convey a feeling of contemplation or grief.
So it's not just about randomly throwing pauses in there.
No, not at all. It's about being intentional with our silence.
Thinking about the feeling we want to create.
Exactly. This is really making me think about poetry in a whole new way. It's not just words on a page, it's an art form that comes alive through performance.
It really is.
And the best part is, anyone can do it. You don't have to be a poet in the traditional sense,
Right.
If you have something to say, if you have a story to tell, slam poetry can be such a powerful way to express yourself.
So what's the one piece of advice from Bahn-Slam that you think our listeners should take away from this part of the deep dive? What's the one thing they should really remember?
I would say this. Don't be afraid to experiment with your voice. Play with pauses, record yourself, see what works for you. The more you practice, the more comfortable and confident you'll become. And who knows, you might even discover a hidden talent for slam poetry.
All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Bahn-Slam. We've talked about the power of raw emotion, how to use your voice like an instrument.
Yeah.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle that Bahn-Slam really emphasizes, and it's all about connection.
It's true. Slam poetry is about personal expression, for sure. But it's also about sharing that expression with an audience, creating a connection, a shared experience.
Right. It's not enough to just get up there and recite your words, you know?
Yeah.
You want the audience to feel something, to be moved by what you're saying.
Even think, make them feel.
Exactly. But how do we actually make that happen?
Yeah.
Bahn-Slam seems to suggest that it all starts with being genuine.
Authenticity is key. When you're on stage, the audience can tell if you're truly invested in what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely.
They can sense if you're phoning it in or if you're speaking from the heart. And it's that genuine emotion, that vulnerability, that creates a connection.
So it's not about putting on a persona or trying to be someone you're not.
Nope.
It's about tapping into your own experiences, your own emotions, and letting the audience see that real you.
Exactly. Bahn-Slam actually uses the term nakedness to describe this level of authenticity.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's about stripping away all pretense and letting the audience see the raw, unfiltered you.
I can see how that could be both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it requires a lot of courage to be that vulnerable, but liberating because when you are that open, it allows the audience to connect with you on a much deeper level.
Creates a space for shared experience, for understanding, and that's what makes slam poetry so powerful, you know? It's a form of expression that breaks down barriers and allows us to connect with others on a deeply human level.
Bahn-Slam also talks about the importance of eye contact.
Mm.
Now, I'll admit, I'm someone who gets nervous just making eye contact with the cashier at the grocery store.
Haha.
I get it.
But they seem to suggest that it's crucial for building a connection with the audience.
Eye contact is a nonverbal way of saying, I see you, you know?
Yeah.
It acknowledges the audience's presence and creates a sense of intimacy, like you're having a one-on-one conversation with each person in the room.
So it's not just about staring blankly out at the crowd.
No, not at all.
It's about making eye contact with individual people, holding their gaze for a moment, letting them know that you're sharing this experience with them.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be constant, intense eye contact, you know?
Right.
Even a fleeting glance can create a connection. It's about being present in the moment and acknowledging the people who are there to witness your art.
Bahn-Slam also mentions paying attention to the audience's energy. But how do we do that while we're up there performing? It seems like it would be hard to focus on both our delivery and the audience's reactions at the same time.
It takes practice, for sure, but the more you perform, the more attuned you become to those subtle cues the audience is giving you.
You start to notice things like whether they're leaning in, nodding their heads, holding their breath, or even shifting in their seats.
So it's like reading the room, sensing the energy, and adjusting your performance accordingly.
Exactly, like having a conversation, a back and forth between the performer and the audience.
So we've covered the 3 secrets from Bahn-Slam: honesty, connection, and mastery of delivery. It's not about being a perfect performer. It's about connecting with the audience on a human level, making them feel something real.
And those are lessons that can be applied to any form of communication, not just slam poetry.
It's true.
Whether you're giving a presentation, telling a story, or even just having a conversation with a friend, the more you can be yourself, the more you can connect on an emotional level, the more impact your words will have.
So for our listeners who are feeling inspired to share their stories and emotions with the world, what's the one piece of advice from Bahn-Slam that you think they should take to heart?
Trust yourself. Trust your voice. Trust your story. The audience will connect with your authenticity and your vulnerability. When you share from a place of truth, you create something truly special.
That's beautiful advice. And remember, you don't have to be a poet to tap into the power of slam. These principles can be applied to any form of creative expression. So go out there and share your truth with the world. Let your voice be heard.
Don't be afraid to connect.
And don't forget, we have that special promotion going on right now for the Poetry Master Guide mentioned in Bahn-Slam. It's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to dive deeper into the world of slam poetry. Available at a reduced price for a limited time, perfect as a holiday gift.
Stocking stuffer.
That's all for this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you enjoyed this exploration of the world of slam poetry and feel inspired to share your own voice with the world. Keep writing, keep performing, and keep connecting. Med poetischen Grüßen, Stefan vom Bahn-Slam Kanal